So if you're thinking about doing a podcast, I highly suggest you use Anchor, and here's why. Now, first things first, it's free, and you can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. I'm talking dollar bills, y'all. Plus, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you to the major platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a bunch of others, so that's one less thing you got to worry about. And they got all the tools you need to record and edit your podcast in one spot, and you can do all that from your phone or your computer, so in my opinion, it's really the easiest way to make a podcast. Now, if that's what you're looking for and you're ready to jump on it, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. What up, though? Welcome to Tamara to the Break of Dawn, the show where you'll literally ride my train of thought as I discuss the different types of challenges and struggles that we all can relate to. I'm your host, Tamara Dawn, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. Now, you already know the struggle could be way too real sometimes, so my hope is that these shows will challenge and inspire you as I basically share the areas that I'm trying to grow in. So let's get it. So if you haven't yet, you should go back and you should listen to the other two requested topics, toxic relationships part 1 and 2, because this is part 3 of that little mini series, and so all of that kind of leads up to talking about different toxic relationships. And this is, though this is not, I'm confident this is not the last time I will talk about dynamics of toxic relationships, because it's just something that comes up a lot. However, we're going to kind of end this little mini series for now anyway, and we're going to land with today's episode. And so today more so focuses on let someone else get high off you. What do I mean by that? Alright, so I seen a meme, right? I see a lot of memes. I like memes. And the meme said, if a MF, if a Mickey Ficky don't realize how dope you are, let somebody else get high off you. I'm going to just let that marinate for a second. If I'm MF, don't realize how dope you are, let somebody else get high off you. So let's pick that apart for a second, because I really like that. I'm not saying I like people to be out here strung out on dope. I'm not saying that. But I really like what that says. So, dope. What is that? Definition of dope. The slang definition anyway. Any narcotic or narcotic-like drug taken to induce euphoria or satisfy addiction. As I said, I'm not condoning drug addiction. That's not the point of this. So euphoria, a state of intense happiness and self-confidence. Now that sounds good. And then a narcotic, anything that exercises a soothing or numbing effect or influence. So basically, what I'm saying is you are an extremely valuable person. There is a void that only you can fill in this earth. There are things that only you can do. There's a lane that only you can drive in. And let's pause for a second. What I really started thinking about this even more is even starting this podcast, because it's interesting. I didn't know really much about podcasts when I kind of got into this, but now that I'm into this, and I said this last episode, I think, pretty sure I did, maybe I didn't, it doesn't matter, I intentionally follow podcasts, like I find podcasters that, especially the ones that are like new, because I feel like we can like learn from each other, grow together. I've never really been one who just follows celebrities for the sake of following celebrities. I like to interact with people, excuse me, and I get it. Celebrities have a lot of, you know, everyone. But I like when the celebrities actually, like, even if it's just like a tweet or reply to something on Instagram. Not really because, oh, I want to be your bestie, or no, it ain't nothing like that. But I'm just saying, I feel like it just shows that they understand that the fans are who make them who they, you know, who they are, in a sense. Like, yeah, hard work, talent, all that, it is what it is. It's a lot of work, I'm sure, to get to the level that they're at, because, you know, you are consistent and you're diligent and whatever, and you have to overcome, you know, insecurities and whatever. So I get it. But at the same time, you could do all that and nobody could watch your movies, or nobody could watch your show, or nobody could buy your albums, or nobody could buy your clothes, or whatever it is you do, and then you're just doing all that in vain. So I love when I see newer podcast people, or people who are just like, you know, I don't know, people that interact with, you know, if I, you know, you get on Twitter threads and whatever, I like that. And so I'm bringing that up, though, because there are so many podcasts out there. And if you get caught up in that, it could be discouraging, because you could feel like, oh, I'm just another whatever. But if you focus on the fact that there is, like, whatever lane you're in, that is the lane that is for you, and only you can do it the way you do it. I heard it said something about I wish I wrote it down when I saw it, but it said something like, you could steal the recipe, but the sauce won't taste the same, or something like that I saw one time. And so it's like, there's a void that only you can fill. You are dope. You bring joy to the people that are for you, because everybody is not for everybody, and that's okay. I think we need to accept that too, that not everybody's gonna like us, not everybody's gonna vibe with us, no matter how good we are of a person, or feel like we are, no matter how kind we are, no matter how much we try to treat people with respect. We are dealing with people that have their own issues, so the way they interact with people is based on the sum total of their experiences so far. So it's kind of like, when I talked about how people, last episode, how people, when they violate my boundaries or whatever, it really, really, really upsets me. That's because of what I've been through. Probably if I hadn't, you know, had my boundaries violated at a young age, I probably wouldn't feel the way I feel as passionately about it. And so it's like, we deal with good Lord, we deal with people based on what they've been through. So that being said, we're not going to be for everybody, and that's okay. But it doesn't take away from your value. It doesn't make you any less dope. It doesn't make you any less you and needed and whatever. And so whatever lane you're in, that lane is just for you. And so if somebody doesn't see your value, you know, back to the illustration of the $1 and the $20 bill, and I don't know if he did it in college or elementary, but it doesn't matter. It's still a really good illustration of how our value doesn't change, one, because of what we've been through. So he took the $1 and he was like, oh, who wants this $1? Who wants this $20? Everybody's like, me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was little kids, at least what I saw. One sec. Okay, it was little kids. And they're like, me. And then he crumpled up the $1 and the $20, or maybe it was just one, but it doesn't matter. He crumpled up the money and was like, does anybody still want this money? And everybody was like, still me. And the teacher was like, remember that what you go through, you may get stepped on, you may get crumpled, you may get whatever. Man, life, oh my gosh. Life can be so wild sometimes. I mean, a lot of times there are things that happen that like we didn't plan for that. We don't have control. Like, we don't have control over everything that happens, and bad things are going to happen to quote unquote good people. Like, it just is what it is, and it's unfair. Excuse me, and it sucks and all that stuff, but it is the reality of life, is that that's going to happen. Nevertheless, that does not change your value at all. That doesn't make you any less valuable just because you've been stepped on or crumpled or you've gone through things. And you're not any less valuable either just because somebody else doesn't see your value. Like, I guess we'll go with the drug. The potency of a drug, yep, we're gonna go there, is the same potency no matter how someone, because oh Lord, yep, we're gonna go there, because people price things however they price it. So the potency of the drug does not change just because maybe one person is charging less for it, and or maybe the next person is charging more for it. It doesn't change the potency of the drug. The drug is still as dope as it is, and or as potent as as potent as it is. And so just because maybe somebody who maybe they don't know what they're doing or whatever, or they're new, or they're just trying to hurry up and get some money or whatever, they might charge less for it. That doesn't mean it's any less potent. That just means that someone got an extremely potent thing for cheap. So let's sit there for a second, because I feel like sometimes in my life I have been too quick to give loyalty to people that didn't deserve it, they didn't earn it, they didn't prove themselves, but because I'm how I am, I'm loyal to a fault, and I've tried to grow away from that as I've gotten older. But like, I'm the kind of person that if we, I don't know, went to high school together or something, and me and one of my friends were talking about this one time, how I left you is how we pick up. So I don't treat you even though I might not have seen you in 5, 10, 15 years, if we didn't fall out and we was like real close in high school, that's still how you are in my mind. And that has been detrimental to me at times, because I've done that and that person they weren't the same person anymore. So it's kind of like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have been loyal to you like that, And so there have been times when I've, for lack of a better word, priced myself less than what I should have. So like, people didn't earn or work for or prove themselves in the way they shouldn't to deserve the benefits of being my friend, or whatever that looks like. And it's been painful. And so just because, and then on top of that, they treated me based on how I guess marketed myself or charged myself or priced myself or whatever. Maybe we should get off the dope illustration. So it's like, just because someone doesn't see your worth, it doesn't mean that you are less valuable than what you are. And also, even if you don't see your worth, because I think sometimes we see ourselves through the eyes, I know for me, I've seen myself through the eyes of what I've been through, and it's honestly, sometimes it takes somebody to call the greatness out of you, like they see the best in you, even though you don't see yourself. And you need to surround yourself with those type of people too, where they're, celebrating you, challenging you to grow, pulling goodness out of you, not the people that are trying to tear you down or just trying to keep you stagnant. I don't know. I don't feel like remaining stagnant should be an option. I feel like we should constantly be evolving and trying to grow and trying to become better versions of ourselves, just because there's always more. There's just always more to learn, to discover, to more ways to grow, new goals to try to achieve. I just am a firm believer that we shouldn't just be stagnant, where we're just, let's look up stagnant. Because let me make sure because that's a word I've never looked up, and let me make sure I actually have a clear understanding of what that word means, which is why I look up words. How come I can't type, though? Stagnant. Not flowing or running as water, air, etc. So that's kind of like at a standstill. Stale or foul from standing, as a pool of water. Characterized by lack of development, advancement, or progressive movement. Inactive, sluggish, or dull. I did know what it meant. So, being stagnant, I'm a firm believer that's not an option. And so when somebody doesn't realize how dope you are and they don't want to smoke you, we're going to move away from that illustration because that'll just go whatever. So, we'll say it like this because I like this better. I found a meme. Another meme. If someone is not treating you with love and respect, it is a gift if they walk away from you. If that person doesn't walk away, you will surely endure many years of suffering with him or her. Walking away may hurt for a while, but your heart will eventually heal. Then you can choose what you really want. You will find that you don't need to trust others as much as you need to trust yourself to make the right choices. Another one says that at some point you will realize that you have done too much for someone, that the only next possible step to do is to stop. Leave them alone, walk away, let someone else get high off you. It's not like you're giving up, and it's not like you shouldn't try. It's just that you have to draw the line of determination from desperation. What is truly yours will eventually be yours, and what is not, no matter how hard you try, will never be. You should not, as I said, have to convince someone of your worth. You are valuable, you are important, and we cannot allow people to make us feel like we are less than just because they don't see our worth. And I'm gonna revisit this in different ways because I just see it too much, especially like as I've worked with people for these many years between volunteering and professionally, just working either with youth or adults or whatever. And it's like, we give people so much power, and I've done it to where I'm like, well, something must be wrong with, no, ain't nothing wrong with me. They're just not for me, I'm just not for them, and that's okay. Ooh, dang. Because there's another meme, I don't want to try to pull it up, but it said that we have to stop, okay, let me get it right. We have to stop. No, it said, my ex, basically was saying, because I don't, whatever, the point of the meme was saying that we got to get away from the mindset of saying like, oh, my ex missed out because I may not be the best thing for my ex, just like they may not be the best thing for me, and that's okay. We got to stop thinking that we're the best option for someone. It doesn't mean that we're less than, however, just because we're not the best option for them. It just means that the heart that's meant to love you, or the friend that's meant to rock with you, or whatever, the job that's for you, the business venture that's for you, the whatever that's for you will be for you, and it will work out as it's supposed to. Sometimes though, like, we try to do things and we try to be with people and we try to have friendships that really aren't the best option for us, and then it becomes discouraging because if you go like too deep into despair because of that didn't work out, it may have you be like, oh, well, I'm never going to be in a relationship again. Well, I mean, I'm not saying everybody has to be in a relationship, but like, why are you saying that? Are you saying that because you were hurt? You might need to just heal, do some soul searching and whatever, and then like maybe be a little slower, or I don't know how you got in this situation, but like why are you saying that? Don't say it. Don't let hurt define you, and don't let hurt dictate how you move and how you do stuff. Like, heal from it, learn from it. You know, if you learn from it, it ain't really a L, it's a lesson. Like, it's not a loss. It's, I guess, lesson is still a L, but it's not a loss, it's a lesson. So just learn from it. But sometimes we want things that are not for us, and then we get into, well, I'll never, you know, get in a relationship again, or I'll never try to do this again, or I'll never try to do that again. Like, y'all don't even know him. And I'd say this to my kids a lot because it's just mind-blowing, the support that I'm getting with this podcast, especially when, like, I'm a writer, so I always just write. And there are blogs that I have written, and they're not out there. I'm working on something else. I'll let y'all know about that when it's ready. But nobody, you know, you can see, just like you can see who listens, or not who, see how many people listen. You know, if you're getting consistent traffic or whatever on your podcast, you could see site visits. And while on one hand, because there is a balance where you don't want to get so caught up in likes, and not so much likes, because likes don't mean they listen. So you don't want to get so caught up in likes and retweets and reposts and all this stuff. You don't want to get so caught up in that. You don't even want to get so caught up in your listeners' numbers and data going up. You don't want that to define you. But at the same time, and if anyone, I don't know, just as a creative, like, I just want to be heard. You know what I mean? And I would be lying if I said that doesn't matter. That's why I constantly try to make sure people understand that I genuinely appreciate, like, you're supporting my growth, really, by listening. But I genuinely appreciate the support, because I know what it's like to do stuff and put something out, and all the time and effort, especially with this, man, because so much time and effort goes into it outside of me recording, you know? And so, when so much time and effort goes into a project, you want it to be seen, heard, or whatever, depending on, you know, what you're doing. You want that. And so then, when it doesn't happen, what if when the last blog that I had, and then had writer's block and couldn't write for a while, but what if, because no one read so many entries, or barely anyone read it, even though people would be so, I don't want to say quote unquote excited, because I'm sure maybe they were excited for me, but even though they would like stuff or whatever, but they didn't read it, because I could see if people read it. And what if I just let that stop me from ever getting involved in any other creative projects? Because I've done other stuff before the podcast. Then I wouldn't have got to the podcast, because it was a journey of how I ended up here. This wasn't me saying, oh, I want to start a podcast. I had never thought about that. It was me doing all this other stuff, and then someone saying, oh, well, you're doing this, you should do that. And then I just kind of brushed it off at first. But then when it kind of made more sense to do it this way, then I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that. But what if I had stopped, back when I closed the last blog down? Y'all wouldn't even know me, and I ain't like I need to be known, but y'all wouldn't even be hearing me. And if this has been helpful or it has made you think or whatever, even if it just makes you think like, if it makes you pause, then I've done my job. Because I'm not trying to be your therapist or anything like that. I don't have I'm not a licensed therapist. I just have a degree in psychology because that's the path I chose to take. But if I just excuse me, hold on, let me, man, throat is just dry in a mug. But if I just made you think, that's all that matters. I've done, not my job, but that's good enough. If you come back, because there's a difference between people that just want to see what you're doing, and then the people that are like, oh, well, no, this isn't the podcast that I thought it was going to be. And that's okay, because it's not for you. But for my, consistent listeners that they're y'all are like, this is what I want to hear. I appreciate anyone who listens, but I'm more wanting that this is really what you want. You know what I mean? Because I can only, be me. I can only be true to what I'm passionate about, and this is literally the type of stuff that I'm passionate about is, us growing and being healthy out here because the world is crazy. So this is my little contribution to try to make it better, and I feel like it starts with me. Everything I talk about is stuff that, even if it's a requested topic, I still have to talk about it from what I know and kind of what I'm going through. It just so happens that when I decide to do a topic, a whole bunch of stuff related to that topic happens. So then I have fresh stuff to go off of because it's really happening. And that's just kind of how I do it. And if that's those of y'all who this is what you want, man, I appreciate that. And it's for those that are not, because there are so many different type of podcasts out here. And if I'm not for you, it doesn't mean that what I'm doing has any less value. So let's bring it back to that. It just means that I need to let somebody else get high off this. I just really like that, off this podcast. But when you think about it with toxic relationships, on a serious note, I think I just said I just really like this podcast, but that's not what I meant, but y'all know what I meant. Even though I do like my podcast. But, you cannot want to be with someone so badly. You cannot love someone so much that you lose yourself in the process and allow them to treat you like you are less than. You cannot do that. I saw this picture, and it was of this woman choking herself underwater, and it was saying how you wanted to be with him so desperately, just so happened to be a woman. Men do it too, though. And you lost yourself in the process. And you could do that not just in the person you date. It could be friendships. It could be whatever. It could be a job. Whatever you're doing, you should still be able to be true to who you are. Because you are only ever going to be happy. You're going to be miserable trying to be a carbon copy of someone else when you're a masterpiece. You were specifically created with a purpose and whatever. And if you don't do it, who's going to do it? And so then If someone doesn't see how valuable you are, then surround yourself with the people that do. And I cherish, and I don't want to say names because I feel like some people might feel some type of way, but it just is what it is, because as I've gotten older and I've just kind of life has just kind of made me look at a lot of things differently because of the tragedies that my family has endured the past almost 5 years now. And so because of that, it's just made me look at life differently, relationships differently, what I need, who I am. Like, it's helped me discover who I am. So then it's like the relationships, the people who just let me be, and just like, I mean, I don't be out here really trying to hurt nobody or do nothing crazy. So like, I don't know. It's mind-blowing to me when people feel the need to comment on anything about me that just doesn't have anything to do with me or whatever, or with them. And it just, I don't understand that. Like, just let me do me. Just let me be me. If I'm happy, that's all that should matter. And it's not toxic, and it's not hurting you, and it's not hurting my kids or nobody else. Like, so the friends that I have, woo, hold on. The friends that I have that just let me do me and just let me be me and accept me just as I am, not saying they don't challenge me to think a little differently, or, you know, I'm not saying they're not helping me to grow and they're just allowing me to remain stagnant, but it's the manner in which it's done just looks different, and it doesn't feel like you're trying to force something that doesn't need to be forced, or it doesn't feel like you're trying to make me feel like I'm weird or I'm less than or something is wrong with me just because you don't understand the way I'm wired and the way I, get down. And that's okay if you don't understand it, but just shh. Like, you don't need to speak on certain things. You should just be quiet. And I'm not any less valuable just because you don't understand me. And so surround yourself with people who like celebrate you. And so that's where that whole let somebody else get high off you, because and you'd be surprised sometimes who those people are. They might be people you already know that you lost contact with. It might be somebody new. Like, I'll say this, and I made a status about this one time. It's just very interesting how much support I've got as far as known support. Because I will take into account the fact that you don't know who listens. Like, the data doesn't tell you who it is. It just tells you how many people listen to each episode. But when it comes to, like, sharing what I post or reacting to it, responding to it, because you know how the algorithms go. The stuff that people react to, it brings it back around. So the people who do that most often, shout out to all y'all. If any of y'all happen to be listening, that's people on Twitter that I never met. I just started following them, or maybe they started following me because I just started following different podcast people, like, and then they shout out other people, so then that introduces me to, like, it's actually a really beautiful community, at least on Twitter. That's where I kind of see it, where people, it's like we're all in this together. And I don't know none of these people. Like, these ain't my homies. Okay, I won't say all of them, because I do have some people that I know in real life that have known for years that actually are, like, day one supporters, constantly retweet. And it's not all about that. But at the same time, like I said, no one wants to create something. Like, I just want to be heard. Like, I do. That's why I'm talking to myself, really, pretending. I'm like an actress right now, even though what I'm saying is true. It's like in my mind I have to remind myself that I'm talking to people, but really in real time I'm not. It's just me. So I just want to be heard, and I'm not going to be heard if people don't listen. But then, you know, if people don't listen, they could still share, they could still react, because it might be somebody that they know or whatever, or their friends or their circle of influence that might be like, oh, you know what, I want to, you know, whatever. That's how I am with certain things. Like, it might not be for me, but I might still, I'm going to still share it. That's the least I could do. Sometimes I wish I could buy whatever, but I don't got money like that. So I'm going to just share or whatever, you know? And so I done lost my whole train of thought of how I even arrived at this place. So I guess I just needed to get that out. But surround yourself with the people that celebrate you. We were created for a community. We were not created to be out here doing life alone. So if there are not people around you who are celebrating you and who are doing the things that I mentioned, then I want to encourage and challenge you to get outside of your little small circle or whatever. And there's just interesting ways that you can do it. If you have a common interest, like I watched the show Power, and I would have conversations with like my brother and my coworkers and stuff like that. But I would have a lot of conversations on Twitter and Instagram, and like, really talking about whatever. Especially as it was leading up to, you know, the series finale or whatever, which we ain't gonna get into that. But, you know, I've had good conversation on common interests. I didn't catch that. Ooh, that scared the mess out of me. Okay, let me just put that phone down. It's funny when my phone, though, be like, I didn't catch that, and I wasn't talking to my phone, and I'm pretty sure I didn't hit anything, and that really just scared the mess out of me, because it's late right now, and I'm just like, bruh, what is happening? But anyways, you know, common interests or whatever are a good way. Like, you know, I've met some pretty cool people just because I started a podcast, and then I wanted to kind of follow other people just because you can learn a lot from other people, you know, like mainly for me, it's mainly been on, I'll listen to some podcasts that are specifically like teaching you things about podcasts. Then I listen to people's podcasts, but the marketing and promoting piece, that's not my favorite thing at all. It just isn't. I just want to create content. And so I've learned a lot by how, and have been like inspired by how other people do stuff. And then you just kind of pick whatever from whatever, you know. I don't be out here just trying to do everything, but it's like, oh, maybe I should add this, you know, like, make my descriptions more detailed. That's one thing. Like, if you look at the first however many episodes and then you start looking later, it's like, oh, yeah, she's putting more detail because I wasn't at first. So, you know, stuff like that you learn just by seeing. I can't really learn from somebody who's not doing it, and there's not anybody else that I know of that I can think of, and I hope I'm not forgetting anybody, because they'll probably be salty if I be like, nobody I know does a podcast. But nope, I'll just go ahead and say that. Not like people that I already knew before I started doing one. So it's kind of like, how am I going to learn unless I learn from the people who are already doing it? So, shared interest is one way to get dope people around you, or I don't know. I just feel like what I've seen in my life is that different stages of life and different stages of just kind of where I'm at mentally, emotionally, whatever, have just kind of put different people around me that is like, oh yeah, you are exactly who I need in my life in this season. And so I just think you should kind of look for that. If that's my challenge, because if the people around you are making you feel like you're less than, then no shade to them, but they might not be the people that are really for you and for where you're going. Because that's the thing too, who you were isn't necessarily probably who you are right now. I know for me, who I was a year ago, who I was a month ago is not who I am right now. Not like this drastic thing, but I'm not the same. So then most definitely who I was a year ago, 5, whatever. So who you were before is not necessarily who you are now, and it's not necessarily who you're going to be in the future. Just as far as, when I'm talking more so about growth and stuff like that, not like completely becoming a different person. So you got to be around the people that not only fit where you're at, but also kind of where you're going, So that's just some stuff to consider. Appreciate y'all. As always, I appreciate y'all listening. I appreciate y'all processing with me or whatever. Like I said, if I made you think and pause and whatever, then that in and of itself is good. And make sure you listen to the little thing about audio messages, because I really want to be able to interact with y'all, like hear y'all voice, and potentially, and I say potentially because hopefully nobody leaves an audio message that's just wild that, I wouldn't do it. But in the off chance that somebody does, I'm not about to put nothing crazy on the air. And I can't even really define what crazy is, because I don't know. My mind thinks, like if it was, I don't know. So I'm not going to promise that I'm going to put everybody on the air, but potentially you could, and you would be notified. But like I said, make sure y'all listen to the next little thing that'll kind of tell y'all about that. And that's all I got for y'all. Until next time. So first things first, shout out to Sniper T for the outro beat, and all his information can be found in the episode notes. But I'm not playing when I say I want y'all to interact with me, so here's a few ways you can do that, and the links to all these methods are in the episode notes as well. Alright, so you can leave me an audio message, and make sure you let me know if you want to remain anonymous, because you might just end up on a future episode. You can email me. Hey, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and I'll definitely follow you back. Go ahead and slide in the DMs, just not on no weird stuff. You can like the Facebook page, and the link on there goes to my email as well. And then what I'll do on Mondays, depending on how much y'all interact with your girls, I'll do a response episode, add a little razzle dazzle of other stuff I think y'all might like. So, audio message, email, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook page, just whatever, just holla at your girl.